Welcome to Two Pentecostals and a Microphone bonus episode. That's right, you heard it. Bonus episode. Halloween. Why is it such a big deal? Can a Christian, or more importantly, can a church participate in trick-or-treat or fall festivals, or as our church does and many other churches in our community, trunk or treat? To me, as a kid growing up, I look forward to the holiday because I can go up to random people's houses, knock on their doors, and they would give me free candy. That's what I've always associated with. Now, we can over spiritualize things as Christians. Most of us do at times. We can put negative, and there are negative connotations to Halloween. Is it worshiping Satan? I'm not so sure. Little girls dressing up as princesses or fairies, little boys dressing up as ninjas or cowboys is not evil in the sense that it's evil. But at the same time, how can we reach a lost and dying world when a church is going to shut their doors and not try to do any kind of outreach on this holiday? Today we got a special guest with us. In fact, he was actually recording another episode that we invited him to come, and we asked him if he would stick around and do this bonus episode that we're releasing now. So this episode actually released before his official invite episode that we decided to do, and we thank him for that. So with us today is Brother Aaron Arrowood. We are thrilled to have him on the podcast. I hope that you guys will stick around and listen. And we got some exciting things coming up in the near future. We'll let you know about that as these episodes roll out. So thanks for joining us today on Two Pentecostals and a Microphone.
Okay, so there's been a little controversy recently on Facebook. Of course, there's always controversy on social media, but about everything. But regarding Halloween. And not just Halloween in general, but even so far as to include fall festivals and trunk or treats. And specifically, we had a video, and it's minor, I guess, really. It's a minor inconvenience. But we had a video where we're promoting our church's trunk or treat program, which is basically what it is an outreach program for the community. A lot of the community comes to us to get free candy, and in turn we actually get contact information from a lot of these people. Some of these kids end up riding the bus to church on Sunday. So it's I think people maybe don't understand what trunk or treat's all about. But anyway, we got a few negative comments on the video.
So you're saying the end justifies the means?
Basically, yes. But yeah, that's pretty much my argument.
Oh,
so
okay, that's good logic.
Yeah, a little Satanism, one time a year. No, I'm being facetious now, but it's we got a couple negative comments, and one went so far as to say, and we took them down just because, and we messaged the people privately, and kind of said, this is why we took your comment down, but. It's just causing division, basically. But someone actually went so far as to say that our church was demonic, in air quotes. That because we practiced, or because we had trunk or treat, we were celebrating the devil's holiday, again in air quotes, and that we were in fact demonic. Mm. That's a pretty heavy accusation against an apostolic church from another apostolic. I'm assuming it was another apostolic person, but Well, what are your thoughts, Aaron? Thanks for staying for the bonus episode, by the way. But what are your thoughts on, I guess, first of all, from the perspective of someone involved in youth ministry and as a pastor, what's the point of trunk or treat?
The point of trunk or treat. Oh boy, you caught me on. I thought you were going to ask something different, so my brain was off in some scrambling now to come back here. The point of trunk or treat is, I guess, it's really simple. We're piggybacking off of the season, mm-hmm. and the way the season is typically celebrated with pumpkins and dressing up and fall parties and harvest time and all that stuff. So it's really not it's not like this is our Halloween.
Right.
It's not really precisely that. It's more of it's a mishmash of the whole season and what's happening in our culture. And we're using that to try to introduce people to Jesus.
Right.
That's kind of the bottom.
So the end is justify the means.
Yeah. In spring, we do springish kind of things.
Right.
In the summer, we do summery kind of things. And in the fall, we do fall kind of things.
Right. So I feel like the accusation of being demonic was so far off base.
Well, my thought to that was, ouch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that one hurt a little bit. I guess my history of Halloween itself was, as a kid, I knew that's when you dressed up and got candy. And my one costume I remember was Tweety Bird. I was very excited about
adorable.
That. I can imagine it was unbelievably adorable. And the thing is, I got so much candy that year that it must have been because I was adorable.
It must have been.
And I had this little wooden dresser by my bed, and the bottom drawer was completely full of candy, I think, for the rest of the year.
Oh, see, I would have eaten it the first night and been in the hospital.
It lasted and lasted. It was.
I have no self-control.
It was phenomenal. That was my experience as a child with Halloween, and then we, as a youth pastor, the haunted houses and things. There was a lot of heavy metal. It was a combination of horror movies, and heavy metal. Mm-hmm. With a little bit of costumes thrown in.
Right.
And it was clearly just really it was very bad. It was influenced by a lot of nasty stuff that we don't want our kids messing with. So I became pretty anti-Halloween, especially anti-haunted houses. And I kind of had that. I guess I was pretty staunch like that for years. Until I decided, Halloween was so evil, trick or treat was so evil, and I was going to do outreach during trick or treat because, I was going to combat the devil.
Right.
That was really what I was thinking. And so I was walking around the town during the trick or treat, and I'm expecting to face the devil. And there were princesses and little ballerinas and little lions and tigers and ninjas, and yes, there were vampires and pirates and things like that. But mostly it was just little kids with their parents,
right?
And it was a community. It was walking around talking to the neighbors. And it was like, wow, we really have to pick our battles, don't we? I mean, we can't be against everything all the time.
And I feel like some of the people that are so against, even a fall party or even a trunk or treat type scenario are probably against celebrating Easter and Christmas, and some maybe even against birthdays. And I think it's don't want to say it's a slippery slope, but at some point it becomes ridiculous.
And I guess I would say if you have a problem with Christmas, and I don't really mean to be facetious, like if this is a temptation for you and you find yourself wanting to be pagan and worship trees or, Santa Claus, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how pagans celebrated Christmas. I don't know. I guess they decorated trees, maybe.
I guess so. Yeah, something to that effect.
If you find yourself tempted to deny Christ in order to engage in these pagan activities, then I'd say it's probably not something you should do. And I think if Halloween, I don't know. I don't necessarily feel a lot different about it. And like I said, you got to pick your battles, and my battle is I'm fighting against internet pornography, the subtlety of television undermining our youths, premarital sex, extramarital sex, perversions.
Drugs are a real threat in our
perversions of all kinds, real false religions.
Right.
That are insidious and pervasive in our culture. And, I'm fighting against those things. I'm not necessarily fighting against my daughter putting on a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, and getting some candy.
Right. My son's going to be a cheeseburger this year. And I told him you are what you eat. And I think that's
a very interesting choice of costumes.
Well, I did explain to him this morning that for what I paid for the costume, I could have bought him like 6 real cheeseburgers. So I think he's just not going to dress up this year. We're going to go get some real cheeseburgers.
Is that episode 14? Are we going to talk about some things?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, Bryce, did you grow up celebrating Halloween?
Yeah, I did. It's one time of year that I can go around and knock on people's doors and get free candy because it was about candy for me.
Right.
It was, I didn't necessarily look at it as I'm, celebrating the devil or worshiping the devil or anything like that. And I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up in, church pretty much my whole life, and it wasn't a big deal.
That's my other question. Was it a big deal in the Baptist church, for example?
No.
It wasn't a point of contention really at all?
No. Not, if it was, I wasn't aware of it. So, I like candy just as much as the next guy. So,
see, I always felt I was getting ripped off because we didn't really do trick or treating. Which, at one time we went when I was a kid and I dressed up as Gumby, actually. And I don't remember much else about it, but I was young. But I think it was because of all the dark things that are associated with Halloween that we didn't do the trick or treating. But like you said, it's mostly about families taking their kids out to get candy. I think it's really just it's a consumer holiday. Just selling candy.
I'm concerned. Probably I'm more concerned about the church sealing itself off from its world than I am about the church worshiping Satan. I don't think a good apostolic church worshiping Satan is a real problem.
Right.
I'm not saying somebody wouldn't leave the church and go worship Satan. I don't see entire churches turning to the devil.
Right.
But I do think it's a problem when an entire church becomes so obsessed with being different or afraid of the world that we seal ourselves off, or we become so holy that we basically live inside a compound, whether physical or emotional or whatever, and we kind of cloister ourselves in.
Right.
I just don't think that's and I guess where I'm getting that kind of mental imagery is, I'm seeing my street, 50 houses on my street, 49 of them with lights on and candy, and one with lights off and doors bolted.
Right.
And that one house being the one house on the street that had the answer to what everybody else had needed. Not candy, but God.
Right.
But by distancing ourselves, I don't think we increase our influence. I think we just we're unfriendly almost, or
right. And I think it comes down to a difference of worldview between people who absolutely oppose, anything in the 2-week time frame around Halloween because it might be construed as being influenced by the devil, and then people that just embrace, well, this is happening in our community, so why don't we take advantage of it and have a trunk or treat? I mean, it's two different worldviews. We're seeing an opportunity for outreach, and I really think I can defend that decision as being mission oriented with the mission of the cross, and I think the other side, like you said, is separation to the point of unfriendliness, and it does. I think it gives you a bad image when the kids coming down your street see your car in the drive and your porch light off, and know that you're just either being a grumpy old man who doesn't want to give out candy, or for whatever reason you're not being friendly.
Yeah.
I know that brings up or triggered a thought in my mind. When you said about being mission oriented, I went on 4 mission trips, and one of the coolest things I got to experience was witnessing on a fishing pier, and I was observing how other kids were doing it, how the other people in my group were doing it, and they weren't getting any results. Everybody was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. And it made them uncomfortable and, even depressed the other people in my group. And so I thought, why don't I just go up to somebody and just talk about fishing? And talk about, it was actually in Louisiana. And I was comparing some of the lakes and rivers we have here in Indiana. We were just kind of going back and forth. And maybe the last 10 minutes, I brought up, what my purpose was of being there, and inviting him to church. And out of everyone in our group, he was the only one that came. And it made a more impact on him than people that were just blatantly going up and right off the bat talking about God and trying to get people to come. I think we see it a lot in like street preaching, for instance. People standing on the corner saying, we're all going to hell, and
right,
you need to repent, and
it's culturally unacceptable.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So trunk or treat. I mean, it's a way for us to open up to the community in a sense that, that we're still, a part of the community, and we can, at the very least, it's a way to invite people to church. But I think more importantly, it's a way to reach out in the sense that we're not holier than anyone else. We're you, for instance. We're a part of what you do. We want to be a part of what you do, and we're offering this opportunity to do that. And like you said, some of the kids will, join the bus ministry, come to church, and I think that is a more powerful impact on people than just blatantly coming out and, right off the bat, going into your witnessing spiel, I guess.
Right.
I don't know, for lack of a better word. But
and I think that when we hear things like, and I may be misquoting this slightly, but basically, come out from among them and be separate, be ye separate. Things like that, we don't understand exactly what it means a lot of times, and we just apply it to everything. And I think there's, I don't want to say there's not merit in that. Obviously, the Bible, you mentioned this in your book. The Bible is always true. Everything should go back to the biblical, to a biblical principle. But when you say come out from among them, be separate, how far does that go? What exactly does that apply to? What's the context of that? Because I've seen it in churches that I've grown up in. I have seen it in some cases applied way too broadly, applied to literally everything, to the point where you are almost like Amish, separate from society and unable to impact them.
I think something that could really help us all is if those that are against it and those are for it could just meet at the Oktoberfest next year.
Right.
And we can sit down and talk about it at the Oktoberfest that we all go to.
Right, exactly.
Because
Picking your battles.
because somehow the giant beer festival has missed the criticism that trick or treat.
Right. It seems
If we're going to come out from among them and be separate.
Well, I think you're going too far now.
Hey, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on your toes, Brother Kyle.
It's all right, but just don't let it happen again.
I will tell you, one of the greatest moments of my life came this year. I was having my third barbecue pork chop meal with the apple dumpling and ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And Audrey and I was with my 8-year-old daughter, Audrey, and we got our food and it was starting to rain. So we ran up under the awning of one of the local businesses when that unbelievable storm hit.
Yeah.
And we sat back in there and we were completely dry and we ate our food at the beer festival. And it was such a special time for Audrey and I. It really meant a lot to me.
That's nice.
Okay, so I have to mention, I just happened to think of this, and I probably should have mentioned it last episode, but actually, sorry, it's like we're in a time warp here. I should have mentioned this in 2 episodes from now. Recording these episodes out of order is really throwing me for a loop. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and mention it just because I thought about it. I was reading your book, and maybe it kind of relates to this, maybe not, but I was reading your book, and you talk a lot about prayer, and we talked about this in the future episode. And I've been reading it at work, and I had a coworker drop me off at McDonald's to wait because Ann was coming up to Greenwood to meet me up towards Indianapolis where I've been working. So anyway, I was sitting in a McDonald's, and I had my laptop out. I was working on some stuff, actually doing some writing, and I was going to put my headphones in because I didn't want to be bothered. And there was a lady sitting there, and she was I don't know what the proper PC way to put it is, but she was mentally challenged, in some way, I could tell from the way she talked. She was talking to herself, actually. And, her hair was kind of a mess. And then I realized she had a McDonald's hat. She was laying on the table. So she worked there, did something. She had gotten off work. I was waiting. I found out waiting on the bus. I did not want to be bothered. And I went to put my headphones in, and she started talking to me. And she's at the next table over. And, I thought it was kind of obvious. I had my Coke here and my laptop in front of my face. And my earbuds were going in, but not so much. Just she wanted to talk. And it was obvious that she was, very poor. She was riding public transportation. I don't think anybody wanted to talk to her, honestly, including me. And not for any specific reason other than I just didn't want to talk to anybody at the moment. But something I read in your book struck me. And I took my earbuds out and I talked to her for probably 3 minutes. And I think she was maybe the happiest that she's been in a long time. I don't know. She was happy as can be that I said anything to her. And a few minutes later, her ride got there, public transportation got there, she got on and left. And I found myself saying a prayer for her, just not out loud. I wasn't interceding or anything like that in McDonald's, but and you did mention how your mom will absolutely do that if the Spirit hits.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing that. So, but just that instant, like that moment, I thought, I took, and I got to thinking about it later because I was like, why? I don't know what she needs. I don't know what she needs prayer for. I know she's probably in a pretty destitute situation. I know she's probably has a lot of issues she's dealing with, but I don't know what they are. I said a quick prayer, and I got to thinking about it later, and I thought, I think the hour a day that you talk about, I don't have time to stop for an hour in one setting and intercede necessarily, or, go. And some days I do, some days I don't. But I do have, and it really did convict me because I do have the time. Stop and think about, and I talked about it before, working in hospitals. I come in contact with the public, and for example, yesterday we were at Community East Hospital in Indianapolis, and our checkout, we do like mobile pop-up stores at hospitals for fundraisers, and our checkout is literally right outside every month, right outside the door of the breast cancer office or center where the testing is done, and people come out just finding out they've had breast cancer, maybe, or their treatment isn't going well, and maybe they have only a few weeks to live. All these sort of scenarios. And I think, and it does relate to this discussion on Halloween because it relates to interacting with humans in your community. I just feel like prayer is of utmost importance for many reasons, and you go into that. And you need to buy his book. We're not going to talk about all of it today, but if you are in a prayerful state of mind, and if you've been praying, and you talk about while you're driving or while you're exercising or when, even while you're, maybe even while you're eating, you can be prayerful in a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah.
And it completely changes your mindset. And it changes, to me, it makes you more mission oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're less inconvenienced by things like the lady sitting down to talk to me about, who knows what, that when I'm really wanting to get in a half hour's worth of work in here before, I have to leave. And it's a distraction from what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But for her, when she got up and left and smiled and said, "God bless you," I knew that just the simple fact that I took 3 minutes to talk to her made her day.
Yeah.
Though that has to do with the mission of Christ, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
And I have to believe that taking time out of our schedules and our self-righteousness sometimes to do something for the community, something like trunk or treat. And I was in the same scenario, kind of the same situation as you. I was very anti-Halloween for a long time, even as a teenager when I was kind of off the rails in other ways. I was always kind of anti that. I never liked, horror movies. I never liked scary, stuff, haunted houses, all that kind of stuff. It just always rubbed me the wrong way. But I've seen the fruits of the labor of things like Life Fest that we had at our church during Oktoberfest one year.
Yeah.
Of when we've done trunk or treat. When we have outreach to the community where we give away, for back to school, we gave away a bunch of backpacks full of school supplies. All those things, it gets us out of our comfort zone and allows us to connect with our community on a real human level. Mm-hmm. And I can't help but think that when you do that, you are doing the mission of Christ more so than when you are nitpicking, for lack of a better term, over what holiday to celebrate and whether, cultural things from 1,500 years ago in the Celtic culture or something, it weighs in at all on how we do trunk or treat here in 2017.
Yeah.
But that's just my thought.
I agree. Kind of the reality of doing the mission of Christ does seem to trump, like you said, some ancient roots that we don't even know about, but we do know that our mission right in front of us is we've got a community to reach. And every time I have an opportunity to interact with those people, I'm going to do it.
Absolutely. I can't help but think that we have missed a lot of opportunities because of probably petty things.
Yeah.
Over the years, I know growing up, there were many times when there could have been outreach opportunities, but because the churches, and this, I went to several churches, so I don't think this reflects on our church in Seymour, but there were many times when outreach opportunities were missed for decades, probably, just because of this idea of separation was taken to the point where it was an apostolic club, and if you weren't third or fourth generation apostolic, well, wasn't much hope for you because you were on the other side of the wall.
A contrast would be, I'm not going to go to a bar to win souls.
Right.
I'm not going to go to a whorehouse to win souls.
Right.
I'm not going to go to the movies to win souls, because there's so much temptation and so much potential for real evil, not goons and goblins, but lust and addiction,
right,
and those kinds of things that are real, and that I have to be cautious about. And so I think we need to be careful not to just say, oh, throw caution to the wind. We're doing the mission of Christ here,
right?
But I just, again, back to pick your battles. I don't think trick or treat is that. It's not a bar or a whorehouse. It's just my street. It's just my neighbors,
right,
dressed up like ninjas and princesses.
Right. Exactly. Well, thank you for sticking around for this bonus episode. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure we will probably ask you back on at some point in the future to discuss something else. You have a lot of experience, and we could all learn from your expertise.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed being with you guys. I appreciate what you're doing, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today in this bonus episode that we released this week. Controversial subject, but when it comes down to the brass tacks of it, it is important for churches to reach out to their community. And one way we can do it is through trunk or treat. It's a great tool that we have at our disposal to reach people that we may not see every day or every Sunday, or even maybe we'll only see them once a year. But it is a great tool that we can use. You may have noticed a slight change. There seems to be a bit of an echo in the way we recorded this. That's because we recorded in a different room this time to help have room for the interview. So actually the next few episodes will be like this. So I hope you bear with us and continue to enjoy the great content that we are giving you. Thank you again so much for listening and subscribing today.
If you'd like to join the conversation, you can find us on social media at 2 Pentecostals. That's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also check our website, 2pentecostals.com, for show notes, news, and links to Bryce and I's blogs. Also, it really helps us out if you can go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, hopefully 5 stars, and leave a review. It really helps us get found in the rankings, and we truly appreciate it. See you next time on 2 Pentecostals and a Microphone.